Welcome back to Off the Carousel. Today we're joined by new Utah State head coach Danny Sprinkle. Coach Sprinkle coming off a pair of NCAA tournament appearances at his alma mater, Montana State. So, Coach, appreciate you taking the time. Hope the transition's been going smooth so far.
Appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's been a crazy 2 months, maybe a couple of days over 2 months, but it's been fun. A lot of the guys are getting back onto campus this weekend, and so actually meeting a lot of them for the first time.
So, I guess first off, how hard was it for you to leave a place that meant so much to you in Montana State, right? Obviously, you were a great player there, get your first head coaching opportunity there, bring the program to NCAA tournaments. Like, how difficult was it to walk away from a place that you had obviously put so much sweat equity into over the years?
Yeah, it was. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It was gut wrenching. It still is. That's my home. Like those are my people. And I'll always be forever grateful and thankful for the opportunities they gave me, not only as a high school player coming in, but also bringing me back. And that'll never change though. I'll always be a Bobcat, and I'll always bleed blue and gold. From that standpoint, and always root for them. But it's something where it was a different challenge, and we did some great things there, and they'll continue to do great things. Coach Logie, they'll continue that, and they'll be tremendous. But opportunities in the Mountain West, and staying somewhat close to Montana, you can't pass up opportunities like that.
So I looked, and I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your first game as a head coach at Montana State was against Utah State. Kind of an odd coincidence. Yeah. What do you remember from that night?
I remember it was a really close game. It was I think a 1 or 2 point game, with 2 minutes to go. And we had a kid shoot a 3-pointer, and he was out of bounds. He stepped out of bounds, and I believe he made it. The very next possession down, I think Brock Miller hit a big three. And then obviously the spectrum went crazy, and we lost it in the end. But we had a good free throw shooting team that year, and we shot terrible from the free throw line. A lot of the kids, it was their first Division I basketball game. And obviously playing in the spectrum and with the fans and all that, it was tough on them. But we competed and played very well. But I just remember the atmosphere, and you knew how important it was, how important basketball was to a place like this.
You mentioned the spectrum. Like, how much of a selling point is that? Obviously, the Mountain West has a ton of just incredible venues, but the spectrum in particular, so much history, such incredible, fan support, student support. How much of a benefit is that for you as a coach, and how can that help you build this program into where you want it to go? Where you want it to go?
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge, because when you start sending some videos, or recruits see like what the atmosphere is like when there's 4,000 students at every single game, and last year they averaged 9,200 fans a game, and it's ranked one of the top 5 college basketball venues in the country. Not just in the Mountain West, like what you said, is got some tremendous venues. It was ranked one of the top 5 in the country. And so, we definitely sell that, but it also shows how important it is to the community. Where you see some high major teams right now getting 3,000 fans to a game. There's so many things for kids to do nowadays. But here in Logan, Utah, when there's a basketball game, that's the thing to do.
You guys got the job somewhat on the later side. The dominoes trickled down as they did, and I think you had something like 7 scholarships to fill. Can you take me through some of the challenges that came with that, and trying to piece it together a little later in the game, especially?
Yeah, there was a ton of challenges, like you said. NLI is a big factor right now, or NIL. I'm sorry. And it hindered us in recruiting. To be honest, in the spring, we've obviously made some changes, and a lot of people have stepped up, like in our collective. But at the time when we had to, it was basically 11. We had 2 players coming back. There was a great player, Rylan Jones, he got medically disqualified from our university. He's going somewhere else now. And he's a tremendous kid. But so we didn't have him either. So we had two players that were both red shirts, have never really played, and now you got to come in and you basically got 11 scholarships that you got to figure out. I honored the four scholarships that the previous staff had signed. I had never seen any of them. Neither our staff had never seen any of them. But the more research we did on the kids, they're great kids, and they deserve that opportunity. And they'll flourish in our system too. Like they're good players. And so, but then we had to go get seven more. In the middle of April, like you said, 75% of the kids were probably already committed. And then when you start talking about NIL stuff, like we lost some players, flat out because of NIL. But I really like the players that we ended up getting because they stand for the right stuff that we're about, and they're about basketball. They're about having a great student athlete experience, and they'll represent us very well.
The NIL stuff, I think, is interesting in the sense that, I mean, when you have the number of spots you had to fill, you couldn't just say, "Hey, we're going to piece together what we have and throw it at one guy," right? You had multiple
Yeah.
places and multiple avenues you had to go at it. So I'm curious from your guys' standpoint, when you're attacking a rebuild, reload like that, how do you think about those resources? How much do you guys feel like you need to continue to grow in that area to not be hindered by it in potentially future years?
Yeah, well, the Mountain West is one of the top, six conferences in the country, and there's money in this league, and we got to catch up. If we want to continue to compete for championships, you have to do that nowadays, no matter what league you're in. And we're committed to it. Our fans, our collective, we're committed to it. Will it take time to get off the ground? Yeah, it could, but we'll get there. And for the time being, we have enough. We have the resources for guys to win championships. We have resources for recruits to come here if they want to play at the next level. And in the schedule, the television, all the things that we can, that go into having a great experience and achieving what you want to achieve as a player, we have it here.
I'm sure it helped when you guys were attacking at one point, right? 11 scholarships
Yeah.
that you were able to bring some guys over that followed from Montana State, and Darius Brown and Great Osborne, and then Jackson Grant committed to you guys at Montana State, follows you guys over to Utah State.
And Max Agbombalo, he was committed to us also. A lot of people don't know that, but he was committed to us also at Montana State.
So how beneficial was it for you to have a group of guys that you already had a previous relationship with, that you were able to bring along for the ride?
It was huge because if we didn't have that relationship, there was no chance of getting them here. And so we were very fortunate in that. Now we also, that wasn't intentional. Like when I left Montana State, like we told those guys to stay together. Because I really think they would have won the championship again, in my opinion, and with the talent they had, there. And so, it just so happened that as time went along, we couldn't have any communication with Great or Darius. Obviously, once we took this job, we can't recruit their players until they're in the portal. And once they went into the portal, now it's my job to recruit them. I didn't want anybody else to coach my guys. And there were some big schools that came after those guys that we had to re-recruit them to get them here. And so, luckily we got them, and we're very happy with them. They're going to be great, and as well as Jackson and Max, who we had prior relationships to.
Your roster last year at Montana State had a player from Wyoming, a player from Alaska, 3 players from Great Britain. I know you're very tied in Southern California from your time coaching in that region. Some of Utah State's best players over the years have been from the state of Utah. Like, what do you view as the most important places for you to win in recruiting to win at this job?
Yeah, you have to recruit Utah. You have to get the best players from Utah. There's some extremely talented players that you can win the Mountain West with the best players from Utah. And it's been proven, not only just here, but Utah, BYU, Utah Valley, everybody's had really good players from Utah. So we have to do a great job recruiting the state. I think also internationally, we had some great success. Some of our better players were from the international, from Europe, at Montana State. And we need to continue that here. And I think that's been, at Utah State, you look at Shulga, you look at Bairstow, Daniel Atkin, like RJ, like they've had a bunch of international players that have been very successful here too. And so we got to continue that trend that we had at Montana State.
Um, the Mountain West, you said it's the sixth best league in America. Four bids each of the past 2 years, the
And it
NCAA
might have even
tournament.
been the fifth best last year or the last 2 years. Like it's been,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Awesome league. And I think the thing that's always struck me is that it's not the same three programs or four programs every year, right? Like Colorado State and Wyoming go to the NCAA tournament the previous year. Now they're at the bottom. Now they look like they could be back up again, right? The league has incredible parity and up and down teams come and go. Like, how attractive is that league in when you're looking at jobs, and then how great a selling point is it to recruits to come play in a league that has great fan support, great facilities, great investment, and NCAA tournament success now with San Diego State.
yeah. I mean, it's huge. I mean, the perception of the league. I mean, people have known about it for a long time, and it's been great. And you look at all the NBA players that played in this league. I mean, Kawhi Leonard. You can just go down the list. Sam Merrill. From here. Neemias Queta. There's so many great players that have played in this league. This side of the Mississippi, it may be the best league on this side of the country. And so, especially you look the last couple of years, the environments, I think that's what makes the Mountain West special. You start looking at, playing in the Spectrum, you look at the Pit, Thomas and Mack, Viejas, Boise, like, you can go down, everybody has a great home court advantage. And, and that's what, you have to bring it with great energy every night you go to play on the road, and they have to do the same when they come to the Spectrum. And so I think that's what really makes the Mountain West special.
How much different were these first 2 months or so on the job versus your first couple of months at Montana State?
I think it was almost polar opposites. Because it's such a different landscape in college basketball right now. Recruiting is so much different right now than it was even a year ago. And 2 years ago seems like ages ago, when you talk about how kids are being recruited. And I mean, just with the money, with NIL, like it's a completely different, this is a completely different job than when Ryan Odom got the job 2 years ago. It's night and day from when Craig Smith got the job. Like I said, you're taking over a program that had two players that have never played really a Division I minute. Where in the past, when you took a job over, like I did at Montana State, I had a tremendous point guard, Harold Frey, that Brian Fish had left, like tremendous player. So like that, it makes the transition easier. And like Coach Odom and Craig Smith, like you get left with Sam Merrill, you get left with Justin Bean, you get left with Stephen Ashford. Like those are pros, those are guys that make a lot of money. And but now Coach Odom had the same situation that I'm in when he went to VCU. He has to completely start over again too. So every coach has to go through it nowadays. And you have to, if you can get your former players, you have to get them if they go into the portal. But yeah, it was night and day from 4 years ago when I took over at Montana State.
Do you think that it's such a different landscape? You said 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Do you think that in 2 years or 4 years it will be a completely different landscape again, or do you think where we are is approaching kind of a new normal in recruiting?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think it'll be pretty similar to what it is now, because I don't know how much more it could change unless they put some legislation on NIL. But other than that, I can see it just staying like this, and I can see even, in some situations, kind of the haves and have nots, even creating a bigger divide or more separation. Because let's be honest, like that's what kids are looking for nowadays. I mean, they'll sometimes pass up, sometimes maybe the best situation, if they're getting paid a lot more money on at some other school or whatnot. So everybody's just got to adjust. And, there's plenty of great players around the world, like you can still get some really good players. You got to go find them and develop them.
And I have to imagine that the success of, right, and you look around the Final Four and you have San Diego State and FAU and
Yeah.
Princeton in the Sweet 16 and St. Peter's the year before, right? Like amidst all this change, at the end of the day, when you build great teams and you have great kids that fit your program, you have a chance to have a lot of success. Like when things are changing like that, do you look to success stories like that? Even the success story at Utah State this past year of being, a top 30 team in the country, how much does that give you confidence that no matter how things shift, a program like Utah State can be really successful?
Yeah, I think you at the end of the day, you still have to. They're still college age kids. You have to treat them the right way. You got to coach them up. You got to develop them not only on the basketball court, but develop them for life after college. And I think as long as you're doing things the right way, good stuff's going to happen. You're going to get talented players. Now coach them up, treat them right, develop them, and that's when you start winning, and that's when the culture really starts building. And then kids aren't enticed to go to another school. Like they want to stay at Utah State. Just like kids, they wanted to stay at Montana State. And just kind of by the way you treat them.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Glad that things are on the right foot, and good luck this season at Utah State.
You bet. Appreciate you having me.
Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.